Ladies, gentlemen, everybody else, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you guys are watching this. This is episode 6, 3 plus 3, episode 6 of the Next Up Fantasy Show. My name is Will. With me, as always, is the Next Up crew. First of all, let's go ahead and introduce Manny. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, everyone? That was actually a good look at you, Will. How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's winning their fantasy leagues because I'm not. I went 1-3 last weekend, so there's that. And as we're watching, it's like the third quarter of the Browns Steelers game, and I dropped Njoku today, and he just scored a touchdown. So that's great.
All praise Njoku the God. And introducing Mike Thesis, my partner in crime, and apparently somebody else. So along with it. So
here right now, man.
How's it going, Mike?
But anyway, yeah, we're here. I'm happy. Feeling a lot better than last week. We actually won last week. Talking about the Cowboys. The fantasies, as far as the fantasy, see the whole family. What can I do? Told you guys we need to do this on Fridays.
Let's go.
But anyway. But yeah, man, feeling good. A lot better than last week. As far as fantasy goes, I'm kind of like Manny though. I had a good week 1. I'm in 6 leagues, which is crazy. I mean, how can you pay attention to teams when you're in 6 leagues? But I'm in 6 leagues. Last week, first week, I was 5-1. I'm feeling really good about myself. Last week, I think I went 1-5. So yeah, I'm a little bit in the doldrums as far as fantasy is concerned. But happy the Cowboys won. Told y'all we're not out of it yet. Still got a chance.
That's what's up. As far as myself with leagues, I did a total of 7 this year. I think week 1 I was at 5-2. But last week it went down to it ended up going down to 4-3, which is kind of sickening the more and more I think about it. But last week was like a weird week of fantasy football. So we'll do what we can to talk about a little bit of that. Plus, we got just a little bit of everything. We got the news and notes, and we got a different segment this time that we'll introduce a little bit later. But first things first, let's go ahead and actually get down to the nitty-gritty of the news and notes. And as much trash that I personally talked about last week, the week before, who I was going to select as the NFC East champions, it looked a little bit better because of a certain quarterback that these two ended up being away or likely going to be away for a little bit. And then this past Sunday, my boy left. My boy is gone, and not just for a couple of weeks, for the whole season. Trey gone.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw him, but Will FaceTimed me when this happened when he was crying. It looked like he was crying for 3 hours straight. He was in his closet, just sitting on his hamper, just crying.
Michael Jordan tears all day. That's practically what I had. But
I told him I was like, man, your Super Bowl odds just went up. There's something you should be happy. I guess not happy that Trey got hurt. You don't want to wish anything like that, but look at now your Super Bowl odds got better.
It's terrible how that works. Why does life work like that? So Trey Lance got an ankle injury to the point where he ended up getting a surgery, and the surgery went well, but he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Jimmy G is back in the fold, and once again, this is not the way that I wanted it to happen if it was going to happen. So I have an immediate reaction, but I wanted to get some quick point of views from everybody else first. Let's go ahead and start with Mike. What was your thought besides Will's quarterback is gone? What was your first thought as far as Trey Lance being gone and now got Jimmy G up on the fold?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's no joy for the guy getting hurt, but I did at some point feel like Jimmy Garoppolo would be the quarterback this year, not due to injury, but maybe due to Trey Lance's ineffectiveness. Just the fact that Jimmy Johnson. Just the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is a more seasoned veteran player who probably knows the system better and has been doing it longer. No offense to Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance will be fine in the future. So my initial thoughts were first, definitely disappointment for the young man. We don't want anyone to get hurt, but I do agree that now I think the 49ers are a stronger team with Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterbacking the unit. And it also brings into question for me, man, Kyle Shanahan and just his usage with young running quarterbacks, because whenever he has one, they seem to get hurt. So I don't know if maybe that's something he should change or maybe not change. But it just seems that, RG3 got hurt. Now Trey Lance, not saying they're the same injury, but it's just, it's an interesting take how his offense can sometimes lead that to happen to young running quarterbacks. But that being the case, I do think you guys have improved. Unfortunately, Trey just had to go down for that to happen.
And that's, again, hella unfortunate that it had to happen this way. But I do agree that one, it's unfortunate that it happened in the first place. Two, Jimmy G is a lot more seasoned. I mean, he's been there for years. Former backup to Tom Brady. So he's a pro. So he's a. I always talked about it with Jimmy G that he's always a really great time managing quarterback. Kind of the same thing with Jacoby Brissett right now with the Browns, but it looks like that he's getting a little bit more action than he usually does, and someone got knocked out in that game. Looks like. But yeah, so Manny, when you're done watching TV and probably Nick Chubb scoring that touchdown, what are your thoughts?
I am a Debo manager, and the first couple of weeks we haven't seen the Debo that we expected last year, that we got last year. I think with Jimmy G, if you have Debo Samuel, you should be a little bit happy. I think he's going to target him a little bit, just like last year. So I think his fantasy value went up a little bit. Maybe a good time to buy him right now. But with Trey Lance, that ankle injury, man, Zach had it pretty much the same injury, and he goes daily. He has to wear a certain shoe, because he feels discomfort. This is 2 years after in his foot. Right. So with Trey Lance being a running quarterback, he's going to have to learn to be in the pocket and actually throw the ball. So I don't know how that's going to work out. If he's able to he's going to switch his whole game style around when he comes back. So Hopefully he's able to do that. Like Mike said, you guys' odds are a lot better to make the Super Bowl now. I just feel like the fantasy value for Debo and even Brandon Ayuk just went up a little bit.
And that was my immediate reaction. The fact that Debo Samuel now looks like a steal in the middle of the second round, middle to late second round. A lot of people got him at, and so now he's like officially a steal. Like I was not buying him at all originally when we knew that Trey Lance was going to be the quarterback, but now that it's a totally different ballgame right now, like yeah, Ayuk, Debo, and of course George Kittle, even a little Juwan Jennings has some fantasy relevance now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they look moving forward. And I'm kind of sad that like not only Trey Lance got hurt in that game, the guy that I've been touting since like day one, TDP, he got hurt in the game, and then from there, and now he's going to be out for several weeks. Can't remember the first name, but last name is Mason. Is now the backup running back to Jeff Wilson. So he may be worth a pickup if no one has gotten him yet, because Jeff Wilson does have a small minor history of injuries. So just something to look at. Next up, we go from one injury to a second injury, and this one is just a lot more minor. Saying that there's not too many issues with it going on, but Christian McCaffrey is now officially questionable. He was limited yesterday, I believe, yesterday or today with ankle issues. We've seen this before this year already, that there was an issue that happened with him the week before, during week 1, that he's having that he's on the report. Now, I'm gonna go to Manny because I'm kind of thinking, because my immediate thought is this is similar to what Saquon Barkley, or what you talked about with Saquon Barkley, how it's one of those little incidental injuries. It's not one of those things that are taken too seriously. Is that generally your thought about this, or do you believe that this is something that's a little bit more serious than what they say it is?
I would say it's not as serious. You got to realize when you have CMC and with all his injury history, any little bump or bruise, they're going to put him they want to limit his hits. So they're going to put him on this report and limited his practice. He really is a vet in the league. Probably doesn't need, you need practice, but he could be limited and still come out on Sunday and put in work. So I think they're just being cautious with him on a weekly basis because they want him to last the whole season. And as you could tell, he's not getting the utilization that he's usually getting prior of getting hurt this season.
Right. And without saying too much about it, I 100% agree with that. That they're just being a little bit more cautious than usual, just based on his history. I think personally CMC is going to be all right. But regardless, it is news. So it's something that we still have to look at one way or another. Mike, your thoughts?
I think CMC will be fine, but Carolina sucks, and so does Atlanta. I think either Arthur Smith or Matt Rule will be the first coaches fired.
I'm going to go with, it should be Matt Rule.
Would you say the two teams?
What was that?
Matt Rule will be one of those two guys who are definitely getting fired.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think CMC will be fine. I agree with you guys, actually. I don't think that he's injured like that. I think that they're just being cautious, holding him back, and he'll be fine.
And worst case scenario, if it is one of those issues, the Deontay Foreman is the backup. Maybe worth picking up right now. He did okay. He actually did okay last year as the backup for Derrick Henry in Tennessee. There was the remainder of the season when Derrick got hurt, Deontay actually did look pretty okay. So not the biggest pass catcher, but he is still willing to do it. So it's always worth a shot as far as if he's still in your waiver wire, then take a look at Deontay Foreman. The more and more information that we get out of him. Finally, we're looking at technically deja vu, but just in a different part of the league. Last year, we saw the dynamic duo of Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams just pretty much lighting up the scoreboard, but it's not them this year. This year, it's Steph Diggs and Josh Allen. It's kind of hard to imagine that last year, even though Steph had a really actually solid year last year, 11 touchdowns, a little over 1,000 receiving yards, it still seemed like that he had a quiet year last year. So with what's going on right now, it kind of seems like he's going to overpass that. So I guess the biggest question, just a general question, just with how they're lighting it up, is there a better dynamic duo in this league right now? Let's go with Mike.
That's a tough one. I don't think right now. No, right now I don't think there is a better duo. As of week 2 is concerned, I think that maybe eventually, let's say maybe at the end of the year we have maybe a Derek Carr and Davante Adams, or maybe at the end of the year we have a what else is a really dynamic duo I can think of? Maybe a Burrow to Jamar Chase, or even, maybe Cousins, if you want to go that direction, to Jefferson. But as far as right now goes, there is no better duo, I feel, than Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. They're killing it. I think Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the NFL, and I think Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver. So, yeah, right now I probably would put them at number 1.
And it's funny that their offensive, I believe it was their offensive coach left to coach somewhere to coach for the Giants, and like it just doesn't seem like that they missed a step at all. It's like that passing attack is still as good, if not better, than what it was last year. And last year they were good. Josh Allen deserved. Well, yeah, no, I'll say it. Josh Allen deserved MVP. He didn't get it, but like he was at least one of those in the top 5, at least in the running for it. And Steph Diggs is just being Steph. That's just what he does. Manny, what are your thoughts?
I think Jimmy G and Deep. No, I'm joking. I think it's gonna be. No, I think it.
I think surprised though if it happens, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think they're the dynamic duo right now. They look unstoppable, to be honest. What they used to have, Manny Sanders, right? That retired, and that probably took away some of his. They had Cole Beasley, taking away targets from Stephon. Now it's the Stephon Diggs show, right? You got Gabriel Davis that people thought he was going to fill in that role, which he is, but he's not. He's not Stephon Diggs. But do you think it's because Diggs played his old team, didn't he?
Yep.
So do you think that could play a part of it? Actually, no. Stephon Diggs didn't play his old team. What am I talking about? Diggs played for the Vikings, right?
Right. Yes, he did.
Yeah, that's not. They didn't play his old team. Look at me. I'm tripping. No, but Diggs is actually like one of the best in the league. He has been even with the Vikings. I'm surprised. That's what I was mostly thinking. I was like, just imagine him with Justin Jefferson right now with Kirk Cousins.
But they have Adam Thielen, and he's just all right, right?
He's just all right. They could have had Adam Thielen too. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and Stephon Diggs still.
Yeah, that would have been filthy.
Yeah.
So filthy.
And Dalvin Cook as a backfield.
Dalvin Cook, yeah, that's ridiculous.
But it's gonna look like that for the Bills because they play in a weaker division. The Patriots look bad. The Jets are horrible. We'll get into the Dolphins, but I don't think they're as good as what people think.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get into the Dolphins. But yeah, as of right now, there's no chance that there's anyone else better right now.
No.
As of this moment, there's candidates. There's people that who can under the radar do it, like probably the most under the radar, just based on how they've been in the last 2 weeks. Stupid example: Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is the stupidest example, but Amon-Ra is doing his thing right now. So it's not. What was that?
Lamar, and Rashad Bateman.
Let's go.
You know what? They scored touchdowns for each of the 2 weeks. What you got one, Mike?
Cooper Rush and Noah Brown.
Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
No, that's serious though. That's serious. Yeah, Tua and I have Jalen Waddle on 2 of my fantasy teams, and he's been money.
Yeah.
Noah Brown. I'm gonna give you credit, Mike. Like you talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and Noah Brown, he's showing up. I'm glad that he is. I don't have him in any leagues, but I'm glad that I'm glad that there's someone else that's actually doing something, especially with Dalton Schultz injured, as well as practically everybody else. But good news, Michael Gallup practiced in full today, so the star may be shining a little bit brighter in Dallas. So there it is. Yeah. So just like Manny talked about a little bit, we are going to go into our next segment, which we talk about if some of the performances that players are doing well or not doing well is something that they can sustain. Not the exact numbers, of course, but could they maintain that level, or do you feel that it's one of those things where you just falter and you just end up selling them as far as trade bait? Originally, I said overrated, underrated, but I don't think there's really a way to worded the way that I actually wanted. So I'm not even gonna put up over underrated. So I'll just say, does he get better or does he get worse? We'll just do it that way.
You could say like trade, keep. Would you
What was
trade or sell high or keep?
Sell high or keep?
Yeah,
Sell high or keep.
Yeah,
Cap
because
or no cap.
if you think he's overrated, you want to trade him and sell him right now. On like as a fantasy player, if you think that he's going down, you want to trade him right now. You want to sell him. But if you think he's going to maintain it, you keep him on your team.
All right, then I'll just put up the thing then. Over or underrated. So I'm gonna just explain like just a couple of situations that's going on with each of the players, and then you just tell me whether or not if you feel that the player is overrated or underrated based on what's going on right now. So let's go ahead and start off with the quarterback in Miami, Tua Tagovailoa. That is probably not how I pronounce it, but we're just going to go with that. So 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to beat the Baltimore Ravens and to save my 14 parlay. Thank you. Him and Tyreek just did a lot of noise making in that last one. So like, it's one of those things where like, is what happened based on just Tua being that good, or was it just a falter of the Baltimore defense, or do you feel that it could be a possibility that Tua falters? I'll actually say my answer first. I'm going to say that it's something that he can keep going, but not 6 touchdowns keep going. We knew how good he was. We knew how good all 3 quarterbacks from Alabama. We all knew how good those 3 quarterbacks were, and Tua, of course, just didn't in his last year there didn't play, but people still believed in him. People still thought that he was going to be solid, and last year he had those games here and there where he shows that he shines, but then again show that he didn't shine. So I feel this year with him adding Tyreek, like you may see a little bit more of a consistency through him, which could actually create him just being still able to shine the way that he did. Once again, not 4 touchdowns in a quarter good, but like he could probably put up let's go 3 touchdowns, 300 yards. He can be able to possibly do that each and every game. He has that upside to do it. Manny, what do you think?
So I might be the only one, but I say like if we're gonna do that sell right now at its peak, get some value in return. Yeah, he has Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, and yes, him and Jalen Waddle are like they played in college together. They have like some chemistry, right? They have chemistry together. Right. I just don't see him consistently getting like that Tyreek value that he got in the fourth quarter. Baltimore Ravens secondary is trash. They're horrible. They're lucky they have Lamar Jackson that could bring them back into the game. But yeah, I like I said, I don't think going up, like you're gonna see what the Bills do, the Bills defense does to Tua, and if you don't sell this week, you're gonna be stuck with Tua for a while. And you'll see. Like if you think he's going to be a maintained quarterback, like he's going to have a shootout with the Bills, and we're going to like this weekend's going to be the deciding factor.
And not only this week, but also next week, Miami plays Cincinnati, which should be a really fun game as well. Mm-hmm. Next Thursday, 1 week from today. Mike, your thoughts?
I don't think either of you guys are wrong. I respect you guys very much in your opinions. But I'm kind of more leaning towards Will on this one. I'm a Tua fan. If you guys look back, I think 2 episodes ago, we were picking our division winners, and I said Buffalo would win that division, but I also said that I liked Miami.
Right.
I don't think that this is a fluke. Now, like Will said, I don't think he'll be throwing 6 touchdowns every week. That's definitely not going to happen. But when we talk about those Alabama quarterbacks, right, we talk about Jalen Hurts. We talk about Mac Jones. We talk about Tua. I mean, if you go back and look at the tape and look at the results, Tua was the most talented out of all 3 of those guys. I mean, you could maybe arguably say Mac because Mac was, he had probably the highest completion percentage and stuff like that. So you could say that, but when it came to just raw talent, I mean, they put Jalen Hurts on the bench for Tua. Tua came in and did his thing, saved them in that
Right.
game where they were able to come back and beat Clemson. So I think that Tua, we have to remember when he got drafted into the league, he was coming off of an injury. So I think it took him time to kind of find himself. And now he has weapons. They have Waddle, they have Hill, they have my boy Cedric Wilson. They're not even really using him like that, but he's there too. So he has all these different weapons he can at his disposal. So I think Tua is legit. I think Tua is going to be bold statement. I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. I do. We'll see what happens next week because Buffalo they could come out and make him look bad. But even if that does happen next week, I still think Tua will be fine as the season goes on. I just feel like he's accurate. And whatchamacallit? Tyreek Hill came out earlier, remember, in the preseason, and he was talking about how much accurate he was than Patrick Mahomes. Yep. I don't call that, but I do think that Tua is really, really, really good. So I think that I think Tua will be fine, and I'd probably hold on to him right now if I had him.
You know what you could do? You could sell him this week and buy him back in 2 weeks at a discounted price.
Yeah. No, I'm not mad at that at all.
Look at that sports card logic. But yeah, I agree. Like just like Mike said, like there's technically no wrong answer with this one. There is once again last year he had a game very similar, and then a lot of people were high on him during that right after that game, and then from there, like my boy tanked. But to be able to win 8 straight games last year, and then lose the last one to get him out of the playoffs or whatnot, like that still takes like a lot. That still takes a lot of heart. So I feel that Tua still has that in him. So Tua's good. He'll be all right. He'll be good. And it's funny that Mac Jones is actually the worst one out of the 3 right now, as of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
He also has the worst team at it, So.
I would say, like in fantasy, like I was joking, but maybe after this week, someone's gonna not want him, and you could possibly package in a deal and get Tua on your team.
That's not impossible.
You don't want him on your team this weekend. I'm gonna tell you right now. This might be the worst game that you want him on your team. If he shows out, then yeah, you're screwed, right? You're taking a risk because if he does have a shootout with Josh Allen, you're not getting him at a discount in fantasy. But if you believe in him, wait a week and he could end up on your team.
Be kind of fun to see a shootout if it actually ends up doing it because there's the weapons everywhere for it. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next one again. And I apologize in advance. Like I said during the pre-show, a lot of these are actually more so second year players that I felt that they had high expectations, and then from there, some of them have just faltered, or some of them did too much as far as their results. So this one is about a story of one that's actually isn't doing too well right now. And if you don't believe me, just look right behind Manny right now, and that player is Najee Harris. So Najee Harris, his story was with him being the rookie last year, him being, I believe, the first running back picked in last year's draft. He was 22nd, I want to say 22nd, 23rd. They practically gave the keys for him to drive as far as the running back position. He went over 300 carries. He did get over 1,000 yards rushing. He had a total of 11 touchdowns last year. So a lot of people still expected him to do pretty decently. But right now, it seems like that it's a little bit more halted. Is it because of the new regime, as far as it not being Ben Roethlisberger? Are they trying to limit the amount of runs that he's doing? Jalen Warren, which is a player that I talked about a couple of times on this show, he's been getting a little bit of play in this game in particular. I guess the question, not overrated or underrated, but I guess in this case is there any reason to simply be cautious about Najee Harris? I'll give it to anybody.
I'll say yes. He scored right. He scored today. He's another candidate that if I had him, I don't know if you guys remember, but I said I'm one person I'm avoiding in the first round, and it's Najee Harris.
Right.
But if I have him, I'm package dealing him and trying to get one of the top players right now. Package him and like someone else and get Justin Jefferson or someone that can produce. This guy's going to get the carries, right? But he's not. He's averaging like 2 yards a game per carry, and
Right.
it's not looking any better for the Steelers. This offense is horrible. Well, I wouldn't say horrible. They got the pieces, but he's not like that guy, you know. So
Right.
I'll
go ahead and simply say the same thing. There's no chance that he's going to get 300 plus touches or carries again this year, especially with the type of offensive line, which is one of the worst in the league, as well as they might end up being one of the worst scoring teams in the league. Because biggest bottom line, if you're not scoring, then how do you expect to be fantasy relevant if your team just doesn't score enough? Like, which is kind of why I've kind of felt bad with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. There wasn't really as much capital in George Pickens because if you selected Pickens, it was likely in like the late rounds. So it's not as much worry with them, but with him, excuse me, but with someone like Najee Harris and everybody else, like they need to score, and that's the biggest bottom line. Did they just score right now?
No, the cornerback looked like he intercepted it, but they called him out.
And you have Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback. I mean, come on, son. Mike, your thoughts?
Not really a Najee Harris guy. For where he was being drafted, I don't feel he's an elite player like that. Lacked explosion. He's a big body. He's strong. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, but the way that their offense is presently constructed with that offensive line, like you guys were saying, I just don't feel like he's going to really have a big year. And if somebody owns him, you're probably talking about somebody who probably took him in the first round, right?
Right.
I feel like there were better options at that point in the draft that you could have gone with as opposed to Najee Harris. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I'm not a Najee Harris guy on this one.
Right. I think we're all in agreement with that in this case. And it's not that we don't want him to be good. Like we want him to be good, but like there's just not enough showing us that this is the guy. It's not. I don't see it as of right now.
So before we go, he's 15 for 56 yards, so he's averaging 3.7 this game, and he has a touchdown. So he has over 10 points, and as a standard league, I would try to this is the week to trade him. Shop him around,
yeah, because there's really no way that you can. I'm not going to say that there's no way he could top that, but like it's going to be difficult for him to consistently be at least that relevant is the best way to explain it.
Yep.
I'm gonna go to a player where I was really disappointed in. So I was disappointed in him last year, and I'm disappointed in him right now this year, which is kind of unfortunate. We're going down to Atlanta. Kyle Pitts. I wanted Kyle Pitts to do so good. Like he has everything you literally want in a tight end. Like he's a person that doesn't even seem like is a tight end. He's built like a wide receiver. But Marcus Mariota, this past weekend he's starting to throw a little bit more. But the problem is he's not throwing it at Kyle Pitts. He's throwing it to Drake London. Shout out to USC. But as far as what Kyle Pitts is going through, through the first two games, it doesn't seem like that he's actually getting exactly what he wants. So I guess the question from here is, and I'll go ahead and start off with the answer. Do you feel that Kyle Pitts will actually end up getting a little bit better throughout the year? I'm going to say it's a small yes. It's not a yes to the point where I'm extremely confident about it, but like I feel that there's no way that someone with his talent can just keep on getting passed up as far as like all the type of throws that Marcus Mariota is doing. And with him being a running quarterback, usually running quarterbacks rely more on the tight end. So the fact that like he's not being given the time of day or not getting the stats that I would think that he would get, and plus on top of that, he only scored 1 touchdown last year, Kyle Pitts. So like not to say by law, but like in theory, you would think that he would score way more this year. So like if he had the same line that he did last year, plus scored about, let's call it 7 or 8 touchdowns, like we're talking about a tight end that's like in the same league as a Darren Waller, as a George Kittle, almost Travis Kelce. But as of right now, I say that that they're going to eventually get him in the game like that. But it's going to probably be in such a much slower pace than I personally want it to be. Mike, your thoughts?
I don't know, man. I just feel like if you're that dude, then you are that dude.
Right.
We've all been in the park before, seeing the dude who's 6'7", all the wristbands on, the fresh kicks, the nice haircut, and he can't hit the ball, right? We've all seen it. So it's just, man, I want to believe like you. I really do. I have him in like 2 leagues. I invested high picks on Kyle Pitts, and I'm not going to drop him because I spent so much to get him. Like I'm going to have to hold on to him and hope that he can figure this out. But for whatever the reason, man, he just has not been successful. And now we're going on the 2nd year of seeing this. Like he really didn't do much last year, right?
Right.
And we're thinking like maybe that's just, he's new to the league, he's trying to figure things out. But now it's the same thing. So as painful as it is to say, man, like I just don't think Kyle Pitts, he just might not be that good. At least not as good as we think, like a top tier elite tight end. He just might not be that guy. And I don't know why. Like you said, all the tools are there. He has the height, he has the catch radius, he has the athleticism, but for whatever reason, man, it's just not happening in Atlanta.
That hurts. That really, really hurts to even say that. But I get your point. Manny, thoughts?
So you have someone that doesn't have Kyle Pitts on your team, Will, but then you have someone, Mike, that has him, and you could kind of see the different vibe that they're getting. What I'm getting is, why not try to go buy Kyle Pitts? And not because I don't think he's going to be like a stud, like stud. Mm-hmm. But the managers of Kyle Pitts are probably over it. They spent a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick on Kyle Pitts. He's not producing. Right. But in theory, no tight ends are really producing. So why not try to get – if you're the owner that waited till the 10th round and got like Njoku or Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet put up 2 goosers. Why not trade for Kyle Pitts for some like a lower end wide receiver or something with a package of a tight end, and then keep him? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? He gives you 0 like Cole Kmet's giving you, but Kyle Pitts is a better athlete and has a higher ceiling, and you could easily just grab a top 5 tight end from someone that's just angry at Kyle Pitts right now.
You're bashing a lot on Cole Kmet on this segment, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, Cole Kmet just made me real upset.
No, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong, and that's the quandary. Like, that's the issue at Kyle Pitts, right? Because, like I said, I wouldn't trade him. I wouldn't release him because I invested so much in him. So I have to believe, right? That's the kind of fantasy player I am. Like, certain players, if I took you in the first 3 rounds or so, I have to believe. I got to give you at least 6 or 7 weeks, right?
You're smart about it. There's people in your leagues that are over it and want to move on right away. So
after 2-3 weeks,
that's why, even though I'm saying I wouldn't do that, I actually agree with you. And I think that you probably can fleece him from some owners who are impatient and are ready to just sell. So I agree.
Especially if the owner's 0-2.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are interesting in that type of range too, as far as trying to trade them when they're down. I think there was a trade that I believe I saw where one person would trade Juju Smith-Schuster and George Kittle for Cooper Kupp.
Oh.
Now I know that you guys are Cooper Kupp fans. I know you are, but but to be able to even have the possibility or the thought process of trading Juju, who hasn't looked that great this year, even with all the point production from Kansas City, and George Kittle, who's just hurt, those two are going to be okay. Like if you're willing to be patient and like take the time, and if you drafted good enough, then you're gonna get pretty much everything that you want from those players. Like Juju, you probably drafted him in the 6th round. George Kittle was probably one of the last of the elite tight ends that you guys drafted. So that's probably around, let's call it 5th, maybe late 4th, early 5th. Let's call it that. As far as being involved with them. Sorry, I was just looking at the thing about the Celtics coach. How dare you cheat on Nia Long? Anyway, moving on. How? But basketball news here. But as far as like if whether or not in this case, for this example, Kittle and Juju is going to be all right. Like that's kind of the same thing that I feel with Kyle Pitts. Like this, it has to be a patient game. Like if after 7-8 games, I'll put it this way: if after 7-8 games he still doesn't produce as much, but your team is still okay, then I would probably still keep him. But if it's to the point where you kind of need to make a move so that you can try to at least get one of the last spots in the playoffs, then yes, I would trade him right away if someone else has an interest in him. We kind of brought up this player earlier this year, and there was another point that we talked about him as well. So didn't have the best of games on Monday, but he still looked. But overall, he's usually a pretty decent fantasy quarterback. Kirk Cousins, you like that? So it's confusing with the way that Kirk Cousins works, because he's always like this silent killer when it comes to fantasy production. Like he's a guy that can always get to 300 yards. He's a guy that can usually get to like 2 or 3 touchdowns on an average basis. He's usually a guy that's top 10 in quarterbacks when it comes to fantasy, but not a lot of people recognize that or even see it. I think for some reason they saw it a little bit more this year. Seeing him get drafted instead of being on the waiver wire. But so far, like first game, he was okay. Second game, he got demolished. So I guess the question from here is, where do we see Kirk Cousins moving forward? Do we see Kirk Cousins as a person that's going to be used, or do we see him or usable? Excuse me. Or do we see Kirk Cousins as someone that, like, don't even try it? You're practically Matt Ryan of the NFC. Don't play.
Mm-hmm. I'll start. I say bye Kirk Cousins. It's been a trend throughout his career. Mm-hmm. Don't play Kirk Cousins on primetime games. I don't know what it is. He sucks on primetime games. He's amazing when he's not on TV. He has Justin Jefferson. He has Adam Thielen. He has his tight end that he was throwing to.
Irv Smith.
Irv Smith. He has Delvin Cook. He's going to be okay. It was just a primetime game, and Kirk Cousins and primetime don't mesh. So that if you have a quarterback that, I mean, he's a late round quarterback, so people probably dropped him. I'm picking him up, to be honest with you.
Mike?
I agree. I think he's like 2-10 in his career on Monday nights. He's just not really a big time kind of QB. But that being said, I don't think he's overrated or underrated. I think he's about maybe 12, between 10 to 12 or 10 to 14, somewhere there in the middle. So it's not like you invested a lot to probably get him. So I think where you got him at, it's pretty much who he is what he is. And I think going forward, I think he'll be fine. He has a lot of weapons. They have a good team. But, he's just not good on Monday nights. So, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to release him or drop him at this point. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, he's average. Exactly. He's just average. He's not going to be the guy that he's not going to be the guy that does like Jalen Hurts numbers. He's not going to be Tua numbers. He's not going to be Tom Brady numbers. He's going to be the guy that does enough numbers to get you by each and every week. He's probably one of the better streamers in fantasy, and don't have to super over rely on him. He's not going to always be your quarterback each and every week, but he's a quarterback where if you look at him and he's on the waiver wire, if you don't like the matchup of your current quarterback, you're going to say, all right, I'll go ahead and pick him up. So like definitely a streaming quarterback, but as far as one that you can just plug and play each and every week, I can't see it.
Yeah, I'm playing him this week. He plays the Lions.
And you're playing him this week. Kirk Cousins might actually be a good pick this week if he's playing Detroit. So
at home.
At home, yeah. And
I do want to cut you off with saying that he's not going to put up Jalen Hurts' numbers. I'm going to sound like a hater. Jalen Hurts is the fantasy quarterback because he could run. If Kirk Cousins could run, Kirk Cousins is a top 3 running quarterback. He could throw the ball. He'll get you like 200 yards. He just doesn't have the rushing capability like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts will give you a 150 and 40 to 80 yards rushing, which that's where he gets his fantasy value.
Fine, I'll say Tom Brady. Is that better?
Yeah, Tom Brady is a different story.
So,
Mike, do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be a hater. Like,
no, we know what you mean.
Yeah, the Russian quarterbacks are such a premium.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Right, like I said, you're not being a hater. You are stating facts, but of course, I want to do a little argument because why not?
We've got to argue, you know.
But yeah, so Kirk Cousins, man. So last person, this is Mike's boy right here. Fresh off the Super Bowl. My man's got an 0-2 start. He had a concussed wide receiver.
Joe.
So like I said, he's 0-2. He's 0-2 right now. Got a pretty decent comeback from the first game against the Steelers in the back there, but just couldn't really finish the job. So like, is Joe Burrow's? I guess in this case, is Joe Burrow's second year a fluke? I know a lot of people had questions about this coming in, because especially no one didn't expect the Bengals to even go to the Super Bowl in the first place. A lot of people didn't, but like, is it one of those things that it was just a thing of the past and Joe Burrow was just getting back down to earth? Or do you feel that, especially with this young wide receiver core, is it something that Joe Burrow can bounce back onto? Let's go and start with Manny.
I think Joe Burrow, he plays the Jets this week. I'm always looking ahead. Jets. After the Jets, he's gonna produce. I would sell. I don't think he's gonna be a top quarterback. Not because of him. I think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, but because that offensive line is horrible. Still. And he's gonna get hurt again. I feel like how many times he's getting hit. I would be nervous if I was like a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase owner. Joe Mixon, I mean, without a line, he could go and catch the ball. He's still producing, even with that horrible line. But the wide receiver, he can't have time to even get the ball out of his hands. So I think he's going to do good against the Jets. I think after the Jets, he plays someone else. That's a good matchup. I'm selling as quick as I can at the peak of his value.
I'm gonna take your line, Manny. I don't want to sound like a hater, but since you talked about him for like a couple of seconds, I've never been the biggest fan of Joe Mixon.
Yeah, he's always been like the type that he's never been a stud. Like you don't see him as a stud, and he's been injury prone. But now he like the last couple of years he hasn't been hurt, and he just quietly gets the job done for fantasy.
It's like he's good. I mean, we're never gonna doubt him as far as how good he is. Yep. But like based on where he's always getting picked up in drafts and things like that, it's like it's not where I don't want him, and that's nothing against. That's definitely nothing against him, but like, Samaje Perine is still taking pass catching roles.
Yeah.
Like Joe Mixon isn't really the third down back anymore like he used to be. He's not a pass catcher like he used to be, et cetera, et cetera.
I want to correct my statement too. I said he had two good weeks. He doesn't. Sell after the Jets because he ended up playing the Dolphins, the Ravens, and then the Saints. All three good defenses that are going to tear him up. And the Bengals can realistically go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1-5 off their Super Bowl. I could see them losing to the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them losing to the Ravens, and I could see them losing to the Saints. The Saints defense is good. You see what they did with Tom Brady.
And Mike Evans.
Yeah, and I mean then he plays the Falcons, but at that point I want him off by week 7 off the people are going to start dropping him. So sell after the Jets if you have them.
Unless the Jets make another comeback win, and then from there, Gary Vee just talks about it all over his social media receipts. Mike, your thoughts?
Joe, man. Joe's my guy. I picked Joe to win the MVP, man. So, yeah, I can't, Will's laughing. I can't, that's cold, man. I'm going to start talking about, no, I'm not going to do that.
I can't believe Will. Will's just laughing at you.
It's week 2, guys, or week 3 now. I should say it's week 3. But no, Manny has a valid point, man. That offensive line is straight trash. So if Joe can survive, I think he'll be okay. Another thing though is Joe played horribly in the first half of week 1, but in the second half he kind of came alive.
He came alive, yeah.
Was able to kind of salvage that day. Last week, people laugh, man, or I don't know, but I feel like Dallas has like a top, maybe 3 defense, man. That's about all we have, right? We don't have a lot else other than that right now, but our defense is legit. Micah Parsons is getting after everybody. He's on pace for like 30-something sacks. Now, he probably won't have that, but I'm just saying, like, those guys, Dorrance Armstrong with 2 sacks, Micah Parsons with 2 sacks. I mean, everybody's getting in on the quarterback. Like, that defensive line is monstrous, and Dan Quinn's pulling all the right strings. So I don't really fault them as much for their ability or their inability to stop that defensive line. So I just think Dallas' defensive line is a problem. I think they're going to be a problem all year for a lot of us. So that being said, I'm going to stick with Joe. But after week 3, it's going to get real spicy. And we'll see what happens, man. But I like Manny said, I don't think it's his talent, and I don't think it's his weapons. The weapons are all there. It's just that old line. Hopefully they can keep Joe afloat. I don't know, though.
Joe, I'm hoping so, too.
If you have Browns defense, they just scored with 0 seconds left because the Steelers were trying to throwing it back, and they're in the end zone and fumbled. So if you have a Browns defense, they just got some points for you.
That's one of those, and on top of that, you didn't have to do that. Come on, Cleveland. You guys won. We get it. But yeah, Joe, I want Joe to get better. I really do. The flair that he showed last year during their historic playoff run is something that I'm actually glad that I did see, because of the fact that there's someone else that's just as hungry, if not more hungry, than anyone else that's in the AFC, because AFC is stacked as hell. And there's just generally no way that I can see Joe give up without fighting. He's gonna keep going, because that's just generally how he rolls. So like
that line's horrible. I'm gonna repeat it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're not giving up on Joe.
They left Michael Parsons. Did you see that play where they three offensive linemen went for one guy and left Micah Parsons wide open to Joe Burrow's back? I'm telling you, they must hate Joe Burrow. He's gonna die.
Another thing, man, I feel like they were unfortunate as far as like them having La'el Collins and Michael Parsons. It just seemed like he knew exactly how to just beat La'el Collins. You know,
yeah,
guy like every day last year. So he was just beating him like a drum, man, left and right. And I mean, it's it was a bad matchup, I think, for them. But yeah, that offensive line needs to protect Joe because he's their guy, and they just, I don't know, they looked horrible. They brought in all these guys from last year to improve last year's line, and they actually look worse.
Yeah, they do.
Get better, Joe. We're saying this in advance now because there's a likely chance that we're not going to like what we see in a couple of weeks. Please get better, Joe. But that's really it for the show. We're kind of going a little overtime as far as what we got. So, any last thoughts? Anybody?
I would. This has really nothing to do. Well, we're just talking about the Bengals, right? And this is kind of, it's on topic, but it's just hella random. But that's why when I'm just gonna say my last little thing I want to say on that is this has nothing to do with fantasy football, but when you're constructing a football team, right?
Right.
You have to have the middle of your line, your offensive and defensive lines have to be strong. They just have to, right? And I remember when Cincinnati Bengals were drafting last year and they picked Jamar Chase, I was just kind of thinking like, you probably should have taken Penny Sewell or somebody like that. So this kind of stuff wouldn't be happening right now. But, you want to take the fancy, receiver. And I'm not, Jamar Chase is an exceptional player. But it's just my last take I want to say on it is, man, just if you're going to have a franchise quarterback, please protect the guy. That's it. Other than that, I'm happy to be here with you guys. It was a great show. I just wanted to say something about that, man, because that bothered me when they took Jamar Chase. I just felt like that wasn't really the pick that they needed to pick to solidify that. You already have Taj Boyd and T. Higgins. I mean, come on, fix the line.
It's one of those for crying out loud. Just get some offensive line help. Manny, any last words?
Michael Parsons has 9 sacks, by the way. 2 weeks. That's all I gotta say.
And that's all kind of.
He's the GOAT. I mean, and hot take, we're gonna beat the Giants. They're 2-0. They're undefeated. We're gonna show Danny Dimes. You're gonna eat Danny Dimes alive.
I'm sorry. I'm only laughing because the Cowboys are going to eviscerate the Giants. And I feel it. Like there's no reason. Honestly, there's no reason why the Giants should be 2-0 in the first place. Like they in a sea of 2-0 teams, like they really stand out. Like why are you undefeated? Do you really deserve to be undefeated? I mean, I know I talked about that. The Giants were going to get better, but like the receivers that they got, that was supposed to actually do better, they're all hurt. They're all hurt, and they're not giving Kenny Golladay any kind of snaps. He only had 2 in the last game. Wan'Dale Robinson, who was looking to be a pretty decent receiver, got hurt. Darius Slayton is actually not even on the team anymore. Sterling Shepard is just taking over everything, and Saquon Barkley is just literally he's the gadget guy. He's literally doing everything like a la Alvin Kamara, just like Alvin Kamara. So
I would say, and if you have him, if he's on waivers or on free agency pickups, not Slate and Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard, yeah. Sterling Shepard got a little play this past week, so he should still. I'm not gonna say still, but like some people are probably bringing more attention to Sterling Shepard.
Yep.
So
that's all I got.
That's all you got. And I don't have really much right now to say either. I don't know, something random. The Bears are terrible. They beat the 49ers. Yeah, they beat the 49ers. They beat my 49ers. But I want you to look at the fact that like
you had Trey Lance.
The reason why Cole Kmet, the guy that you said was going to be all right last week, Manny. The reason why Cole Kmet is trash is because the Bears only done 28 pass attempts in 2 games. That's
Mike's guy. Mike's quarterback.
That's my guy. I'm wearing my Justin Fields jersey next week, man, because this is getting it outrageous.
Wear it, and hopefully
man. I didn't want my guy to go there in the first place. They just don't seem like they trust him. I don't know, man. Chicago.
I was ready to take him in San Francisco. I was ready for it. I was looking forward to that. If not Justin Fields, then Mac Jones. I actually would have been fine with it.
But
it doesn't work that way.
You know, you have a girlfriend and you don't like her, and then when you get rid of her, you like miss what you have. That's kind of like the 49er fans with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm fine with Jimmy.
They talk crap about him when he's on the team, but once he's actually gone, they're gonna miss him.
Oh man, Jimmy.
We should ask people from New England that.
Cool little nugget. A lot of people probably know it. I know you guys probably know it, but Jimmy G. What? He went to the same college as Romo, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's an Eastern Illinois guy. So
yeah,
good for Jimmy. Good for Jimmy. Go ahead and that's what they do. You know, they're dope.
Yeah, exactly.
We can talk like this forever, but we're gonna go ahead and get going. Call this a night. So that's a wrap. Episode 6, we done. So for next up fantasy show, I'm Will. For Mike, what up?
What's up, man? Peace.
For many, am I putting it right? There we go.
Yep.
For many,
yeah, Eagles suck.
They do, man. I don't even want to get started on that, but yeah,
we can't get started. We'll probably
clip it. Clip it. Eagles suck.
But how about them Cowboys? This is Will. Everyone have a good night.
We